Hello and welcome to another episode of the How to CEO show. I'm your host, Murray Newlands. I'm delighted to be joined by Jonathan from Cabin DAO. He has an amazing project building cities of the future for creators. Jonathan, welcome to the show. Please do introduce yourself and your project.
Awesome. Thanks so much for having me. My name is Jonathan Hillis, and one of the founders, and my official title with the DAO is caretaker. I'm the caretaker at Cabin, and we are a community of online creators building a decentralized city. So I can tell you a little bit more about what a decentralized city is, but might be helpful just to start out by showing you a little bit about what I'm talking about. This is one of our first cabins out here at Neighborhood Zero in the Texas Hill Country. This is where I live. And it's a beautiful, day out here. We're just starting to get the nice spring green is coming up around the property. And just up the hill right now, we've got about 8 or 9 members of the DAO who have just gotten out today to participate in a build week where they're going to be helping us build a sauna. So that's the sort of thing we like to do out here at Neighborhood Zero. And what we do more broadly as a DAO is help other folks build properties like these and connect them together in a network that is this decentralized city where we can have shared culture and governance structures, but not all be in the same place at the same time.
So for those who don't know, what is a DAO, just to explain to them?
Yeah, definitely. So a DAO is a decentralized autonomous organization. There are a lot of types of DAOs, and even I think the way people would define DAOs is pretty hotly debated right now. But one way to think about it is just that a DAO is essentially an internet community with shared resources. So sort of like a bank account, but usually represented in a multi-sig treasury, which is a crypto term for just a way that we can collectively govern resources together.
And your DAO has been very successful. Why do you think, for someone who wants to launch a DAO, wants to launch a project, what do you think makes a DAO successful and why does it take off?
Yeah, so I think DAOs are all about communities, and I would not encourage anybody to try to launch a DAO. Cabin did not start out as a DAO. Cabin started out as a community of independent online creators. After I left my job at Instacart, I wanted to come out here to the Texas Hill Country and build a cabin. And I started inviting, some of my internet friends. We were part of a group called the Creator Co-op. They came out here and we started running a residency program. We tokenized it. And then literally months later, we realized, we've started a DAO. And so I would not recommend anybody sit down with a blank sheet of paper and say, I'm starting a DAO today. What I'd recommend is that you meet other great people online, you start building a community. And then when you have something that you want to collectively govern, that's a good time to start thinking about DAOs.
So I have no idea. Someone was trying to randomly call me on Discord, which I was not expecting. But that is also the
Web3 experience.
Totally part of the Web3 experience. So how did it? But you've also been successful, right? So what makes it successfully transition from a group of friends doing a project to suddenly being able to become an entity that has value there?
Yeah, I really do think it's about the people in the community first and foremost, and just attracting other wonderful humans. And the way that you tend to do that is around very big, audacious, specific, highly memeable goals. So for us, that was building a decentralized city. And that's what we, get excited about waking up in the morning. For other people, we've got our friends at Kraus House are working on collectively owning and operating an NBA team. That's another example of a very specific, audacious goal, that people can form around and build community around. And I think most of the great DAOs that we'll see emerge will have that sort of purpose and goal that pulls people together.
Now, why specifically a creator community? And do you have to be a creator to be part of the community? How does that work?
Yeah, so that's really our origin. That's where we started. It was a group of friends called the Creator Co-op that came together to build this thing. And I think what's unique about independent online knowledge workers is that they tend to be very location flexible. And they're interested in exploring new ways of working together in this world of decreased transaction costs. And so I think that's why we found a lot of success in bringing online creators together in the form of a DAO, and that's our mission. We hope that there will be many types of decentralized cities of the future. And so I don't know if you want to go build a decentralized city for oboe players or something. We'd love to help you figure out what that looks like, particularly if you have a really strong community that is united around that goal. We're here to help enable anyone on the internet that's interested in coming together IRL to have the tools and resources to do that.
Now, people who create content online, in order to be successful to a certain extent, you have to build an audience, build a community. Do you think having a group of people who are already doing that along the journey, do you think that helped to kind of supercharge your project?
That's a great question. Yes, absolutely. So a lot of us in the original co-op had gone through an online writing course called Building a Second Brain, and another one called Rite of Passage. And Rite of Passage in particular is really about not just writing, but building in public. And I think that's become a really core tenet of our community, is doing everything we do in public. So as we talk about how to create the right operational structures for our DAO, as we think about governance, as we think about budgeting, these are all things that we not only try to do for ourselves, we try to then turn into resources and information we can share with others to help them on their journey. And I think that value of building in public has been super important, not only for the individual creators within the DAO, but for the DAO itself.
Now, as you build a community, it's not just and a city. It's not just building community. It's then building the DAO, which has all kinds of management to it. And then effectively, if you're going to be the caretaker for this, there's the voting system and the management of people and community. It's almost like becoming, it feels like almost you're going to become the mayor of the city or whatever. How do you feel about that knowledge, that learning experience and that knowledge, and how that's going to be handled by a community as well?
Yeah. So we don't know exactly how this all works. Everyone in DAO land is trying to figure out what the governance structures of the future look like. What I do know for sure is that I'm not a CEO and I have no interest in being one. Maybe mayor ends up being a reasonable type of position we have in a decentralized city of the future, but I think it's just too soon to tell. What I do know is that we practice the principle of progressive decentralization. And so what that means is, any project like this is necessarily going to require a small group of focused people to get it off the ground. But we see becoming a DAO as a verb, and we see decentralization as a verb, something we constantly need to work on, and something that requires the community's input to figure out what those governance structures look like. And so while we definitely have a core group that's helped get us from 0 to 1 here, the goal is to continue to progressively decentralize, continue to improve our governance structures, and continue to create opportunities for all the new people coming into the community to engage and find their role and quests within the DAO.
And how do you think about what that community looks like and how you communicate that? Because in many senses, you could say, obviously, you're hoping to build utopia, not dystopia, right? But utopia and dystopia are different things for different people, right? And you could start out on this journey with everyone saying we're going to go to here, point A, and then actually they decide their life changes. They have a family or whatever. They want to go over here, and they put a lot of time into this. And equally, point A could actually end up not looking like what they want to be part of. How are you managing that journey for the people as part of the path?
Yeah, another great question. So I think this is one of the real benefits of DAOs is the forkability. And sort of what you described there is built into the basic nature of how I think these organizations are structured. So we are not trying to create some monolithic utopia. I would say, there's been plenty of examples of people trying to create utopias in the past. They don't tend to go very well. What I would say is that we're actually trying to create lots of very autonomous local communities around the world that then have this mesh network of shared culture, maybe some shared governance, certainly shared memes. But ultimately, we think the way that you solve this problem is by putting as much control and autonomy into the edges of the network as possible, and make sure that instead of creating one monolithic attempt at utopia, we create thousands of attempts at small groups of people living together.
That's excellent. If people want to experience this, who are you looking for to join this experiment? How do they become part of it? How do they engage? Do they have to be creators? Can they? Because presumably a community needs all kinds of people, not just creators, to be part of it. And then also if they want to start their own decentralized living space or community, how does this work?
Yeah. So the first thing to do, like with many DAO and Web3 projects, is come hop in our Discord and say hi. We have a sort of immigration process for joining, the Discord, joining an onboarding call, getting into the community. We welcome everybody, but we just want to make sure people have the context when they're joining about what we're all about. And then you can join a guild, if you're maybe a creator who's looking to meet up with other writers or videographers or programmers or whatever you're looking for. We also take the word creator pretty broadly. We see anybody who is interested in this future world of making money independently through the internet to be a great fit for the DAO. And this week is a great example. We've got about 8 folks here at the cabins for a physical build week, folks that have never built things before, and literally a licensed architect, who's helping lead the build. And so we take, we're interested in anybody who gets excited about this vision of decentralized cities. We'd love to have them in the community, and we think there's probably a spot for them.
So talk about some of the people who are active in the community, in the Discord, in the Twitter group, who if I go to the community, who will I engage with?
Yeah, it really is a pretty broad spectrum of folks at this point. We organize ourselves into guilds. So we have a media guild that takes care of all of the writing, a lot of the building in public that we do, as well as a podcast. We just started a YouTube channel. We have a product guild, which is building, software products for ourselves. We have, we have a physical passport card with a chip embedded on it that can hold NFTs representing your visas to access parts of the network. So that's an example of a project out of our product guild, which includes engineers and designers and PMs, et cetera. We have a Placemakers Guild, which runs things like our physical, build weeks, as well as our operator residency program, where we bring out DAO people from the ecosystem to collaborate together IRL. And we also have our Community Guild for people who are excited about, helping build out our community within the DAO. So if any of those sound like interesting spots, we'd love to have you come jump in and introduce yourself and meet some people.
And so what are some other communities that you see that you think are doing a great job and that you engage with?
So I mentioned Kraus House earlier. They are great friends of the DAO. We think they're doing a really cool thing, and we're huge supporters of their mission. They have a little bit of the overlap of, how do we take online communities that now have shared resources and start applying that to the real world? In their case, buying an NBA team. We're also collaborators and participants with Seed Club, which is an amazing accelerator for DAOs and Web3 projects. And, we think that social DAOs, many of which are coming through Seed Club, are going to be some of the most important types of DAOs, that emerge over the next few years. So There's tons of other great projects. I could probably talk for an hour just about that question, but I'll stop there from like a sort of DAO perspective. I think the other thing we get very excited about is groups of people that, we say are DAOs. They may not realize it yet, though. And so this is a lot of the groups who we work with and onboard as neighborhoods and nodes in the Cabin network. There's an amazing group called Montaya Basecamp that has been running creator residency programs in the Eastern Sierras and California for years. And we were very excited to welcome them in as a Cabin node. They were a DAO, they just didn't realize it yet.
That's fantastic. So what's the vision for this? In 10 years' time, will there be 1 million people living in Cabin DAO nodes? Well, what's the grand vision for this?
Yeah, I think it's exactly that. If you think about cities and their ambitions, there's a great Paul Graham essay with that title. If you want to be an actor, you go to LA. If you want to be in finance, you go to New York City. If you are an online creator, we hope that in the future you want to be a part of the decentralized city that we're building. That we're already starting to expand to nodes all over the world, and we think there will be thousands more of them that start to form these decentralized, almost city states that we're LARPing as. And ultimately, I think that over the last century, we've seen cities built around the dominant technology of the era, which was cars. And we're very interested in cities that are built around the dominant technology of this century, which we think is the internet and blockchains.
That's fantastic. If people want to connect with you, how do they do that?
Sure. You can find us on Twitter at Creator Cabins. And from there, you can also get the link to join our Discord, which is really where all of the activity happens. So we'd love to see you in the Discord, have you on an onboarding call, and get you plugged into one of our guilds.
Jonathan, thank you very much for being on the show.
Yeah, thanks so much for having me, Murray. This was great.
I'm Murray Newlands, your host of the How to CEO show. I'll see you next time.